Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to welcome all of you to KCAB webinar titled Securing Your Second Appointment as an Arbitrator, 3 and many more tips on how to secure your continuing appointments. I'm Hyewon Kwon, Director of Korean Commercial Arbitration Board International, KCAB International. It is my great honor once again to welcome you, even your tight schedule and so many webinars around the world. Well, actually, as well that from the top of the flyer, it was designed to congratulate the 29th Bismuth competition to be held in Vienna. As one of the leading arbitration institutions, KCAB used to come to Vienna for contributing in many ways, such as holding events, participating as an arbitrator. And another point, I truly love Shunichel as well. But however, unfortunately, last year and this year, we could not make it because unforeseen disaster COVID-19. But however, we are also approaching to endemic and find out just any alternative to be with us and to be back to normal. So until our next in-person meeting, please be safe and please stay well. As you guess, our title, Securing Your Second Appointment as an Arbitrator. Nowadays, second might be much tougher than the first. You know why? Because nowadays the new wave, such as ESG or diversity matter, probably young arbitrator or arbitrator could think about or consider career change might have his or her first chance. But however, after serving his or her arbitrator, maybe a few months later or a few years later, they did not contact any additional one. Well, you may think about what's the problem. Is blame on me or blame on institutional or council? Then today's webinar is designed to provide more transparent tip, protocol, or reasoning for you to secure your just a second appointment. So to deliver our opening remarks, I invite Mr. Professor Hee-Taek Shin, the chairman of KCAB International. Professor Shin is also working as a full-time arbitrator of 20 access chambers, and he's also serving as an emeritus professor of Seoul National University. So Professor Shin, please.
Thank you for the good introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending upon where you are. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all today to this webinar on the very interesting topic. Despite our sincere hope that the pandemic quickly goes away so that we might get back to the normal, this pandemic has persistently interfered with our life for more than 2 years. Notwithstanding the hardship we face, with the support of the marvelous technology, we are fortunate to be able to continue to hold Bismuth competition again this year for the benefit of participating students, as well as the international arbitration community. All of us at KCAB International are delighted to continue to support Bismuth competition. For over 25 years, the Bismuth has served as a fertile ground, providing young aspiring lawyers an opportunity to debut as counsels and explore the world of international arbitration. Simultaneously, it has offered young lawyers and counsels their very first opportunity to sit as arbitrators. Providing young arbitrators with opportunities to grow and foster their talent has always been one of the priorities of KCAB International. In fact, a quarter of the arbitrators appointed by KCAB International in 2020 was the first-time appointees by KCAB International. KCAB International, like other reputable arbitral institutions around the world, has pledged to consider diversity in exercising the appointing authority. It is our view that, quote, age, unquote, is as significant diversity factor as the geographical and cultural factors and gender. We believe that it is the institution's responsibility to reconcile the parties' stipulations and expectations on the one hand, with its commitment to promote diversity of appointments on the other, and strike a fine balance between them. Potential arbitrators thus find that their candidature must meet both larger diversity interests of the community as well as individual party stipulations and expectations. That's why the process of arbitrator appointment by the Secretariat of KCAB International is one of the most challenging matters in the administration of the entire arbitration process. I am sure that this webinar would provide practical insights to both prospective and qualified arbitrators to seek and maintain the influx of their appointments. Additionally, we hope that arbitration counsels would find this webinar useful in the process of selecting a right candidate for an arbitrator. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the panel members who graciously agreed to share their experience and insights on how to secure a second and continued appointment as arbitrator. Our panel members today have extensive experience in working as arbitrators and deep understanding of the selection process. I hope that you will find their insights very helpful in exploring your career advancement. I hope that we could meet in person next year around this time in Vienna. Until that time, I wish you safety and health all the year round. And finally, I wish you enjoy a great session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shin. If I share just a tip of Professor Shin, Professor Shin is a big fan of just Shunicha. So whenever we come to Vienna for celebrating Bismuth, I saw he used to enjoy the Shunicha. So yeah, as Professor Shin mentioned that, to be involved in the selection and appointment of arbitrator is one of the most challenging issues from the perspective of KCAB Secretariat. Even I was trained and experienced more than 20 years, it is still hard and troublemaking, but however, most important things. Now, I would like to hand over to our co-moderator, Ms. Inhwa Kwon and Mr. Hara Zipper.
Thank you very much, Hyewon, and thank you very much, Professor Shin, for this great introduction that really makes it much easier for Inhwa and myself to now co-moderate. Now, before going there, let me briefly introduce Inhwa, who is, as I already pointed out, the co-moderator today together with me. Inhwa is a senior legal counsel with Hyundai Heavy Industries Group. And more importantly, since we speak about second things today, the second appointment, a fun fact about Inhwa is that she has a first and a second love in her life. That's her boyfriend and her dog. We leave it to you, the audience out there, to decide who is the first love. With that, Inhwa, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Harald, for that. I mean, how can anything be your love for your dog? Just saying. And let me return the favor and introduce my dear co-moderator, Harald, with this fun fact. Harald is, since the beginning of the new year, currently on a mission to do 50 pull-ups. He has now mastered more than his first and second pull-up, but at the current rate of progress, he will only complete his goal by 2024, it seems. Back to you, Harald.
It seems I will need to work harder. Thank you, Inna. Now, let's go back to the topic of second appointment. Hiwan already pointed out in his introduction just a few minutes ago that it may actually be harder to get your second appointment than getting your first appointment. And I believe this is true. There is much to be said about this. And this is one of the reasons why we came up with this topic today, because there's a lot to be learned by the people in the audience and generally everyone who wants to get his second appointment. Now, before doing that, let us take a step backwards. And before we speak about the second appointment, let's think about the first appointment. We have 4 wonderful speakers with us today. And as Professor Shin pointed out, they have extensive experience as arbitrators, or in one case, when it comes to the appointment of arbitrators. Let me turn to our first speaker, Lisa Beisteiner. She is a partner with Seiler, Floyd, and Sadkovich based out of Vienna. And Lisa, in addition to that, I understand that there's also a second for you. Being an international arbitration lawyer is your second career. Your first career was as a ballet dancer. Today, we will not discuss your engagements and appointments as a ballet dancer, but rather those of your second career as an arbitrator. But before, as I said, before we go to the second appointment, could you enlighten us how you got your first appointment? What helped and how did that happen?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for the introduction, and just for those who are sorry that they couldn't travel to Vienna. If I look outside the window, it's cold and it's raining, so don't be too sad about that. My first appointment was actually a case about moldy cheese, so bad cheese, and I will not forget it. It was a very small case, totally inexperienced counsel, many procedural questions. So it really tested my case management skills. It was a classical CSG case. And I actually got it after a seminar, which was hosted by our local or regional institution, the BIAC, in which we also did a mock case. So very much like the Wismut, there was a platform which provided visibility for young arbitrators, and I was mocking the arbitrator in that setting, and that got me that first appointment. And when the letter came in, I actually thought it is a mistake, because at that time I wasn't even fully qualified as a lawyer yet. It takes 5 years of practice in the under the Austrian system. But then I really worked day and night. I did discuss all the issues, all the tiny, petty little procedural issues that came up with my colleagues, very often also with my senior partner. And it seems that the BIAC liked what I did. And obviously, I mean, what helped in getting that, of course, you have to find some way of showing that you are qualified, showing to the institution that you're out there and that you know your way around an arbitration. Obviously, at that point, I have been working, doing counsel work, doing tribunal secretary work already. I guess what also helped, obviously, speaking in terms of diversity, is that I was a young woman. So two factors which the institution can tick off with one appointment in terms of diversity. More practically speaking, I guess what you should absolutely make sure is that you make the institution know that irrespective of at what stage you are in your career, you are willing to work hard also on smaller cases, which are very often more complicated cases, and that you are also allowed actually to take on these cases, allowed in terms of the policy of your law firm, which may not be the case for all of us, especially with working with big law firms. And institutions may be under the misconception that we don't give an appointment to that person because he or she is working with that big firm. So clear up these misconceptions and make sure that that they know you are actually available and you're willing to get these things. And just one final word here. That was not my first, but it was one of my first ICC cases, and I guess I got that. It was a construction arbitration, a dispute adjudication board case, and I got that, I guess, because I had published in the field. I had extensively researched the topic of dispute adjudication boards, and there are not that many, at least in the European market, who have done that before. So that is industry expertise, special expertise. That is also something which practically comes in handy when you want to get appointed on a case.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing this. Now, let me introduce our next panelist, Anish. I'm very thrilled to introduce him, who is an Indian qualified lawyer, full-time independent international arbitrator, and Charter Institute accredited arbitrator. Fun fact for Anish, as his profession may require him to be, Anish is a very generous individual. However, we were fairly warned that he's throwing about chocolate, and more so with the original Haribo's gummy bears, with what he might not spare any generosity. Without further ado, I would send the mic or ask Anish to join us in providing his strategy in getting his first appointment, if there was any strategic moves he made, and also if he had this diversity factor, as Lisa mentioned, as he was getting his first appointment. I'll be curious to hear.
Thank you very much, Inwa, and of course, Fahald as well for the introduction, and Lisa has made some fantastic points too. To answer that, and is very simple, a couple of things that I did. Firstly, people thought I was very crazy in early 2016 when I quit the law firm life cold turkey to start as a full-time arbitrator without any backing, without any assurance. And that perhaps, and my reason for that was very clear. Today in international arbitration, this concept of double hatting exists, where people perform the roles of both a counsel and an arbitrator. Now, particularly in a jurisdiction like Southeast Asia, and even more so for me based in India, for example, former members of high office, retired judges, so on and so forth, they rule the roost in terms of the individuals or the sort of individuals who get the most appointments. The other concern that people have, like Lisa rightly mentioned, this whole concern of, oh, wait a minute, why should I appoint this person in a firm? If they end up, because another law firm partner will be, hang on, this person's young, dynamic. If I appoint them, they do well as an arbitrator, client may want to go to this individual because they'll even outsell me in terms of an hourly billing rate. So I made a very conscious choice. It was a difficult choice to leave the law firm life and become a full-time arbitrator right off the bat. A couple of things first that you need to do: build your profile. What I initially made the mistake of was focusing on the larger jurisdictions. Please don't do that. Okay, before you break into the larger jurisdictions where there are very well-established arbitrators across the bar, it's going to be much harder. Focus on smaller jurisdictions first. Build your profile there. And one thing you simply must not do is let someone tell you something can't be done. If someone says, oh no, the minimum age to be this is X, Y, Z, don't accept it. There's always an exception. Show them, let them make you be that exception. Additionally, This whole notion, and this is why I get very upset sometimes when younger arbitrators say, oh no, I can't do this case because it's a commodities dispute. Oh no, I can't do that case because it's a complex construction or EPC contract. That's incorrect. Oh, I can't do this case because it involves Islamic law, it involves Chinese law, it involves XYZ. Please do not think like that. Remember something, and this is a common misconception that not only young arbitrators make, but even senior arbitrators make. As an arbitrator, you are not expected and you are not meant to explain the law, to advocate on behalf of a party. Therefore, it is not your job to know the law of the seat, because it is the job of the parties to advance their case and for you to make an analysis and a deduction based on the arbitrators, based on what the parties have submitted before you. So be very conscious. Don't say no. My first few arbitrations were that in commodities disputes, and I knew nothing at that point in time in commodities. Last year during the pandemic, I was appointed as an arbitrator, as a sole arbitrator in an ICC case seated in Hong Kong involving Chinese law. I've never even been to mainland China, let alone not being qualified. But what do parties look for? Is this person going to conduct the matter efficiently? Are they going to bring something to the table that other senior practitioners are not doing? Time, cost, efficiency. That's so incredibly important. If you're sitting in Austria, or if you're sitting in Germany, in South Korea and Seoul, please don't think, oh, wait a minute, I'm over here, a young practitioner in Seoul. Who's ever going to appoint me in the African continent? Don't think like that. You know, get onto panels, show that visibility. KCAB is doing a wonderful job encouraging younger practitioners. Set yourself apart from the rest. First step, like Lisa said, make yourself known as being someone willing to take on cases of any value. My first few cases were a few $1,000s. In fact, I ended up spending more money in my travel costs. I didn't care. For me, the appointment was more valuable than the money I made from that. Okay, do that. Second, have your accreditations, have your qualifications, so people know you are serious about this. Okay, let people know you're a full-time arbitrator, that your attention is not diverted. Okay, this gives you an additional USP. Okay, and finally, be efficient. I mean, I cannot stress enough on that. Be very clear in terms of what defines you as an arbitrator. I know for a fact people who are very keen in some Southeast Asian countries to constantly seek adjournments, they will never appoint me, because for me, short of the building about to come collapsing down, you're not going to get an extension once the schedule is fixed. So be very clear in terms of the sort of arbitrator you are, because it's a small community, your reputation spreads. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anish. I will not appoint you either, because I sometimes need extensions. No, I'm joking. I'm really joking. And your point is very well taken. I think it's highly important. I mean, we'll get to that in the further questions, but efficiency is truly important. And it's great you echoed some of the points that Lisa made, which highlights that as much as we are happy to have different views from around the world, there is some commonality, because after all, we want to give some guidelines to the audience out there. Now, we started with Lisa in Vienna. We then moved to India with Anish, and we're now moving to the third continent, so to say, with Kabir. Kabir Dugal is or I should rather say, the senior international arbitration advisor with Arnold and Porter, practicing in New York. Kabir, as I understand, can do one yoga headstand. The jury is out there on the second one. With that, welcome to you as well, Kabir. And please tell us on how you got your first case and what helped generally. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold, and delighted to be here. A great panel. I wish somebody had done this when I was looking at my own career early on as an arbitrator. You know, when you are serving as an arbitrator, you are selling an invisible product, right? And the invisible product is you yourself, right? And this is what we would urge everyone who wants to serve as an arbitrator to do. Think about what is unique to you that you can sell as your unique selling point. And this begs the question, what is your unique selling point? And the answer to that is, I cannot tell you what is unique to you. It has to be unique to you. So think about that, reflect on that. But there are certain things you can do to raise your profile. And I'm going to largely copy what the prior two speakers said. Just a generally good advice in life, when people have said intelligent things, just listen to that and repeat it. Point number one, you may want to think about intelligent topics that you want to write about. So writing becomes a good way to show expertise, right? Especially early on in your career, you can think of thematic issues. You may want to write about force majeure, wink, wink. I'm looking at Harold. That could be one way you show expertise. You can take geographic areas, right? I want to focus on Southeast Asia. I want to focus on construction. I wonder who said this, our prior two speakers, right? And you can, based on your schedule, do longer pieces, shorter pieces. As lawyers, shorter pieces are sometimes easier. Kluwer Arbitration blog, American Review of International Arbitration blog, do a couple of different posts, and that shows expertise. You can give talks, right? Most arbitral institutions, KCAB being a good example, have young wings, young chapters. Participate in that. Don't do what I did when I started. I was one of those people who signed up for everything and didn't attend any one of them, which is the most stupid thing you can do in life. If you join an organization, participate in it. Another thing you can do, and Lisa touched upon this, if you are a diverse lawyer, and a lot of us in Asia would often tick some boxes of diversity, that's something which has been ignored, and finally it's getting the attention that it deserves. If you are a diverse lawyer, own it. Institutions are concerned about it for right reasons, for reasons of legitimacy. If you speak unique languages, that's another form of diversity. Consider them. And my final point, and I'll stop with this. If you want to serve as an arbitrator, Anish and I have spoken about this in the past. Harold and I have spoken about this in the past. So we're going to give away the big secret. Just ask. Put it out in the universe. Reach out to institutions and tell institutions, I'm ready to do small cases. Surprise, institutions actually like motivated young people who want to do cases and do them well. So just put this positive energy in the universe, and you may be surprised that institutions actually keep that in the back of their mind. And when they find the right case, may appoint you. Now, ask nicely. Let's not throw common sense out of the window. Don't be a pest, and don't be, I'm asking now, why didn't I get a case tomorrow? World doesn't move that way. But don't hesitate to ask. With that, I'll stop because I know some of our other speakers have more to speak, but we can keep this dialogue going.
No, thanks, Kabir. You're raising a few really good points. And I wanna emphasize the USP you made, the unique selling point. And there are different words for it. I usually call it a niche. When there is something that's unique about you, then that really helps a lot. But you also must make sure that the institutions know about it. Because if you have that USP, but no one knows about it, it doesn't help. And for me, my just to add personally, my USP is the East-West connection, if you want to say so. The vast majority of cases that I've been doing as an arbitrator were cases between East Asia and Western countries, be it Europe, Australia, or the US. Now, we've heard from 3 different speakers now, and we want to do the reality check. the reality check is done by the KCAB today, because we have Heewon still with us. He didn't merely join to give the introduction here. No one has introduced you so far, Heewon, so I'll quickly do that. Heewon is, well, what should I say? I could say he is the KCAB, because really I think there is no one who has been with, who has the experience at the KCAB and with the KCAB that Heewon has, but he is the international director there at the KCAB, and was also in charge of putting this event together. So thank you for that, Heewon, one more time, and thank you for having us. Before I let you do the reality check, there's also a fun fact about you, of course. Heewon has a son, as I know, and this is why it's very important to Heewon to secure a second mobile device, because one phone is always occupied by his son playing the latest mobile phone games. Now, Heewon, my advice to you, and I'm speaking as a father of two, don't get your second child, else you will need to buy 3 mobile phones. But now over to you. What can you add on what the speakers have said so far, and what is the KCAB's view on all that?
Okay, thank you, Harold. Actually, just mine, just quite new mobile phone together with my Galaxy Tab. Just the 2 of them are really occupied with my just a little boy, only for purpose of just gaming. So I'm currently just very seriously thinking about just purchasing new one. Probably just good excuse for me to have a permission from my wife to buy iPad. So, okay, so thank you all of us for joining this webinar, panel members and audience. I'd like to share just my humble insight to all of you. But however, before saying just my comment, I would like to make sure that just, it is not our KCAB's official comment, even if I say something. So I should be very cautious for that. Okay, Lisa and Anish and Kabir, I have to say that I'm all in line with this. Maybe a profile issue, was selling, or just unique point and a small piece of cases, all is a good thing for you to be counted or considered as a second, to secure your second arbitrator appointment. But however, if you put yourself in the shoes of a secretariat position, I think it is also a good point to be considered, because actually just including KCAB, all arbitrary institution, even ICC, SIAC, LCI, VIAC, or many local institutions in India and China, they are service provider. They are not court. In case of court, actually just even though they pretend they care about just the service quality, but however, court, they just bring a lot of cases to court, national local court. In case of Korea, actually just in the civil cases of litigation is more than over 1 million cases per year. But however, just in terms of KCAB, we had just new receiving cases around 500. So we have to care about the service quality and the integrity from our just service output given from our arbitrator. So then how to make sure that, as Kabir mentioned, that profile is extremely important. But however, you keep saying hello to institutional guys. Hey, I'm here, maybe just monthly, weekly, yearly, it might be good. But however, if you're not ready to add very justified character to be qualified to as an arbitrator, which is a specific institution, then I think it is not make sense. It's useless. Maybe, for example, you're basically just a little bit far away from just a specific institution, maybe Alien X. I'm saying not just geographically pointed out any just institution in the world, on the earth, but however, just maybe you are just on the earth, in the universe. But however, just it is maybe 10,000 kilometers away. But however, you didn't have any substantial experience to be appealed to the institution. you are just maybe just thanks to remote controlling and remote devices, you can easily say advertise yourself with the emailing, Zoom call, or any other thing. But however, maybe 1 year before, or 6 months before, or 1 month before, there is nothing changed. Then how can you make sure institution or secretariat saying that, okay, according to our case law, maybe this gentleman or this lady would be perfect to the second or first arbitrator. So I would like to recommend saying that if you are considering to be applied to specific institutions appointment, then first thing is that you need to review the annual report of that institution. Because ICC, I think maybe just ICC quite worldwide institution. But however, including ICC, many institutions have their own character, and they do want to share their experience and character with multiple channels. The first thing is the annual report. According to the annual report, even if it might just have a little bit just less dense information for just visual visibility, but however, it gives you very important factor, such as in terms of KCAB, the majority of the frequent user of foreign parties is USA and the Vietnamese, Chinese, and the Southeast Asia and Middle Eastern. You can say that, okay, these maybe groups heavily involved in KCAB. So if I had just a very strong connection or very deep knowledge or understanding of that jurisdiction, it might just give more opportunity to be involved. But however, according to your profile, nothing to promote yourself to be involved in that jurisdiction. What else? And then maybe just a Harold, you can speak just Korean, not legally, but however, just you have a very high level of Korean understanding, saying that maybe, okay, this contract might be just stipulated in English, but however, some parts of communication done in just Korean. So to have a better understanding, even if the official language was said by English, but however, some parts of communication done in Korea, so then maybe Harold or other arbitrator might understand the core part of just or hidden part of just the things for the case. Then it gives more visibility from the perspective of KCAB or any other institution, I think.
Thank you, Hyewon. For this panel, we were giving out a second title that we would give 3 tips or more from our panelists about getting your second appointment. For the first question, we have received abundance of tips, the factors or strategy that played a role in them being appointed as arbitrator. Not only that, we have also heard the stance you must take as an aspiring arbitrator, or energy in Kabir's word. And now we know the homework to do from Hyewon's last comment. The due diligence you need to do as an aspiring arbitrator. Let us move on to the second topic, the second question to the panelists. And this will be the very core of our panel discussion today. What should you do as an arbitrator in order to get a second appointment or get appointed again by the same institution, let's say? What does it mean to do a good job as an arbitrator? How do you measure it? What did you do to make sure that the institution that appointed you or the parties appointed you are happy with your performance? Let me ask Anish first.
Sure, thank you very much, Inwa, and also to Hyewon for these very valuable insights. In terms of how to create that reputation, you need to remember today, I have sat, for example, on tribunals with people born in late 1930s, early 1940s. Now, what you need to understand as a young practitioner, and this is very, very crucial, respect and understand the backgrounds that they come from. However, you need to showcase to the parties and institutions that money and the monetary aspect is secondary. For you, efficiency is of paramount importance. I'll give one example. It is normal practice when you have a presiding arbitrator, and if you're one of the wing arbitrators, If one of the parties, I remember in one of these arbitrations, on the last day of hearing with about 45 minutes to go, said, I would greatly appreciate and request the tribunal to please allow us one more day of hearing because I need another 2 hours to complete. I did a quick calculation. That additional one more day of hearing would have cost about an additional $24,000 US. For me, unconscionable. And we could not simply extend the day because one of the arbitrators had to travel to another city for another hearing in another case. Now, ordinarily, when such a party makes a request, the presiding arbitrator will respond. I immediately interrupted because I knew if I let the presiding arbitrator or my other wing arbitrator respond, they would have allowed it. I responded saying, I'm confident I speak on behalf of my very esteemed presiding arbitrator and wing arbitrator. We are not here to make money. We are here to do justice to the parties. And for us, it is unconscionable to allow that extension for one day because the cost would be disproportionate. We will sit here. We know each of you are ready to argue only till 5 p.m. We will sit here till midnight if we need be, but you will finish this hearing today because one additional day is disproportionate. And we sat there till about 11:30 p.m., much to the annoyance of my presiding arbitrator and co-arbitrator. But what I then did was at the end of the hearing, the two CEO and CFO of the parties came up to us while my presiding and the wing arbitrator were telling me, oh, Mr. Wadia, this is not how you do things, blah, 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 blah. The two party representatives both came up to us saying, thank you so much, Mr. Wadia. I said, look, please don't thank me. Whatever I have done, I have learned from these very two esteemed gentlemen over here. Please, thank them. And then very grudgingly, those two very senior members sort of smiled back at me. Now, I didn't want to take credit. Remember, there is this constant need as young practitioners to have big egos. Oh, how can someone say this to me? Never have an ego as a young practitioner. Please don't. Okay? Forget your ego. You have no ego. This will hold you in great stead because remember, like everyone before me has said, like Kabir also mentioned, that USP, go that extra mile. I once had an arbitration where my presiding arbitrator, stenographer, fell ill. So she would only write the notes in handwriting. I had to travel to that presiding arbitrator's residence, take a transcription of those notes, come back to my residence, type it out. Because she didn't use email, I had to go back again physically, give out those typewritten notes, come back again. Am I getting paid for that? No. Why did I do it? Because for me, it is not an individual, why should I do it? I'm not getting paid more. No. What is my primary objective? To do justice to the parties. Justice must be collective. It doesn't matter who gets credit. At the end of the day, people will know who was efficient in a tribunal and who was not. Okay? So again, be very clear in terms of how you go that extra mile, how you show that dedication. For example, how many times each of you have been into hearings?
I'm cutting you short here, sorry. Sure. In the interest of time and being time efficient, as you point out,
sure.
I hope you don't mind. But we only have about 15 minutes left. I'm moving on to Kabir now. Kabir, what are your views once you have that first case? What does it mean to be a good arbitrator, and how should you make sure that everyone is satisfied with your performance?
Sure. I mean, I would suggest be flexible, be thoughtful, and be ready to hustle. The second case is definitely harder than the first case. Your first case can be a fluke. The second case, you have to prove yourself. One small point I'll make and then I'll stop. Show some flexibility when it comes to fees and expenses. So when you're starting off in your career, right, we all want the bajillion-dollar dispute, but institutions have a spectrum. And you can always, institutions like that, if you tell them, look, for the first 2-3 cases, I'm ready to waive my travel. I'm ready to let the institution, as we heard our awesome speaker from the KCAB tell us, right? You need to show that you have the ability, the willingness, the knowledge. You need to prove yourself to the institution. Show flexibility. They like that. Small disputes, parties have difficulties. Be the person who can step in and fill that void. It's a win-win. You gain your experience, you show your talent, the institution can serve the clients effectively. Boom, success. I'll stop here so you can carry on with the discussion, but
thank you, Kabir. I'm gonna ask the same question to Lisa. What have you done to make sure that you manage the case and manage the tribunal, if you put it this way, well, in the eyes of everyone?
I mean, there are so many excellent points that have already been making. It's always difficult to now follow up. So repeat the intelligent things that have been said before. No, let me just really tie in with what Anish and Kabir and also Hiwan said before, and just let me make 3 general remarks and 3 specific remarks, which I think is very important on, you know, what do you do in order to do a good job as an arbitrator. First thing, I really want to echo that notion of service provider. We are service providers as arbitrators, but we are not the party's slaves. And I guess that's something that is a fine line to walk, especially when you're a young arbitrator. And we could talk about that for much longer, but I'll leave it there. The second point is, I guess, Anish, you mentioned it, don't have an ego as an arbitrator. And I do agree in the way that you put it. However, I think as a young arbitrator, in a different way, you should have an ego, because you have to do a good job and you have to let others know about it. And that may be also a female-male issue, especially the girls listening to us talk about the good things that you do and the hard work that you're actually doing as an arbitrator. And the third general remark is, it also ties in with what you said, Anish, the full-time arbitrator and focus on your arbitrator work, don't get distracted. I do agree. On the other hand, I think it's always very helpful also to have that change of perspectives between counsel work and arbitrator work, because very, very often, then at least from my experience, in my role as counsel, I sometimes have realizations about, you know, how things actually go down with the parties, well or not so well, that you do as an arbitrator. And I think it's a very good reality check to have that. 3 very short, specific remarks. Talk to the institution as an arbitrator. So don't go on autopilot, but call Hiwan at KCAB and discuss that provision in the rules, how you see it, and get his views, discuss a certain procedural aspect. Of course, it's your decision as an arbitrator at the end of the day, but don't be shy and just reach out and really make contact with the institution. Second, provide reasoning, not only in your final award, but also for procedural decisions, because that will help the parties accept that procedural decision, even if they don't win that battle. And third, and I think that's very important today, and we haven't touched upon it, the IPCC report on climate emergency is very actual for you as young arbitrators, as the arbitrators of the future. Go check out the green protocols on green arbitration. There's a lot of them out there. I guess this is also part of what makes a good arbitrator. Work paperless to the extent possible, work remote to the extent possible, do your share in changing our industry. And with that, I hand back to you, Ingvar.
You're heading back to me, Lisa, but never mind. Thanks a lot. I'd like to pick up just on one point you made, Lisa, out of those 6. The reaching out to the institution. I think a lot of, especially young arbitrators, they are worried about reaching out to the institution because they believe it will give the impression that they don't know what they are doing. But I think the opposite is true. The institution will appreciate it. And I see Hiwan nodding, so I'm on the right track. Of course, you shouldn't call your case counsel and say, hey, I have no idea what's going on, please help me. That's not good. But if you say, look, the way I read this provision is as follows, what is your views? Then this is usually going to be appreciated. But this is just one point. Several points were made by all three of you. And Hee-won, you're again the judge out there to do the reality check.
Well, actually, just my response or answer is the same. All of you are right. But however, just I stress out just Lisa's point, saying that, and Harold as well. Actually, don't hesitate to ask a secretariat. Maybe those keep saying is that not judging you as an inferior or just a minor or just you are not ready. We are very, very acceptable and ready to support you, because the first case I would like to ask you that I share with you is that I'm just seriously enjoying this one case with one female sole arbitrator. She used to work at as a very, very renowned institution as a case counselor. So she knows how to just approach to other institutions, saying that maybe just whenever just do things comes to her, the first thing is to ask a secretary. In my view, your institution rules say blah, blah, blah. So am I understanding, is it correct? Yeah, sure, it is. I mean, most cases is correct, but however, sometimes you might just share a different view. Additionally, as Anish and Kabir mentioned, that just a relatively young arbitrator tend to have a relatively small cases, not enough defended with both counsel. So then, however, just if we work at maybe just major firms, let's say Arnold and Porter, maybe you probably just the same standard. Those small cases. Then from the perspective of secretariat, wow, in a small cases, we need to wait just 1.5 years or 2 years for using time, just a very typical stereotype of discovery with document production. No, I don't think so. So then you ask maybe just KCAB, what institution? Okay, this counselor, this party is not ready to, well, not supported by just a legal counselor. So do you have any certain protocol or any just reasonable approach to be shared with me? Okay, then please, I strongly recommend read the rules of any other institution you are appointed. Second thing, maybe you don't have to feel shame. But however, if you are reluctant to do that with the secretariat, you never work together, then you may refer or you may consult with the other senior arbitrator who is saying that from his website or her website saying that I have many, many cases through just this arbitration institution, including KCAB or VIAC or any other thing. I'm not sure, I'm a little bit just concerned to maybe share with a specific name of arbitrator, but however, there is an arbitrator started with just B, and his last name is started with H. Please dig into our website. So he has many, many cases, and he's willing to support relatively just a young generation. So if he or she is hesitating to contact the secretariat or institution directly, then you better just ask him or her, please share with his or her experience before specific arbitration. They are ready to be your big angel.
Thank you, Hee-won. It connects to our next big question to the panelists, how one should interact with the senior colleagues in the tribunal, and also understanding that your arbitrator appointment often comes from referred by a senior member or your colleagues from different law firms. It is extremely important that you know how to present yourself towards your arbitration colleagues. I'm just wary of the time running out, and I would emphasize that Harald and I are both under this big mission of cutting the webinar at the 60-minute punctually. So I would say we have 2 minutes for each speaker now. I would invite Kabir to go first now.
We even have less than 2 minutes, 1.5.
1.5
Sure.
then.
Just on interactions, either with seniors or with institutions, people are people, and people like people who are decent, who are polite, who are respectful. So just use good sense, be polite, be respectful. This doesn't mean you need to be a pushover, especially if you're young, but be polite. I've seen people talking to institutions and shouting at them. And then you're surprised you don't get a second case, you don't deserve one. No judgment. Same thing with your co-arbitrators. I'm not going to go on and belabor this point. I will stop here.
Thanks a lot, Kabir, also for keeping your comment short. Much appreciated. Lisa, I cannot see you shout at other people in an arbitration setting. No, but on a more serious note, what's your advice? What's your secret?
Are we at the one secret, the final remark already? Just to get it right. Or are we talking about the tribunal management?
We are still speaking about tribunal management.
Tribunal management, yes. So let me be quick. Let me just pick out one point here. I guess what you will have to determine is that there are certain issues where you will have to discuss and liaise and align, and all members will want to have their say, and you have to listen to them, and you will have to be super well prepared. You have to be patient. You have to give everyone a platform and have a decision-making process, and then deliberate even on procedural issues, and then have a decision. But there are many other issues where, as an arbitrator, in interest of efficiency, what you will do as a chair arbitrator, you will think about it hard yourself. You will prepare a suggested way forward. You will formulate that fully. You will send it to your wings, and you will ask them, any comments? Do you agree? And they will tick it off. And that will be, let's say, 80% of procedural decisions. And I guess you have to differentiate. You cannot do one size fits all. That's just one comment on tribunal management here.
Sorry, secret from you, Anish.
2 points.
Or secret tip.
two points. One, research your co-arbitrators very well. See where their buttons are and where they aren't. Know what to push with them and when not to push. Number two, when you're a wing arbitrator, especially as part of an institution, it's usual practice for the presiding arbitrator to get paid more, because a small percentage more, because they draft the initial draft of the award. Sometimes if they're very senior members, they take very long. What I tend to do is I offer, saying, look, you keep your extra fee. Let me prepare the first draft of the award. I'll send it to you in 1/10 the time that they would have taken. So the arbitration wraps up a lot sooner. Understand that, be very conscious. And again, the benefit, just to tie in with what my very esteemed panelists have said, when you research who your arbitrators are, you may know, for instance, oh, during deliberations, if I push for this, they're never going to agree to it. So pretend something else is more important to push for, to get the actual end justice outcome in the award, or what is actually should be there. So pretend something else is important to you when it isn't. Okay, and then you give up on that, so the other arbitrator feels, oh, you know what, they've sort of bent their will to what I wanted. Let me give in to their other point. You see, just basic psychology. Being a good arbitrator is not only being able to manage the parties, but managing the egos on the tribunal.
Thanks a lot, Anish. I think psychology always plays an important role when we are speaking about dealing with others, because as Kabir said, people are people. No one can contest that. I'm going to cut short on this question now, because I believe, Hiwan, the deliberations and the communication among the tribunal, maybe the institution is less involved than in other points. But I'd like to move over to you and start with our last round, which is a quick fire round, meaning you have to be super quick. So it's much, much less than a minute and a half. Everyone needs to be super quick because we have 1 minute left. Hiwan, what's your number one advice to secure your second appointment?
Super quick. I can say maybe to be candid, but actually just say, if you didn't understand it, please let us know. If you're just willing to, please let us know. But however, just if we hide and if we are late, we are behind the party's expectation or secretary's expectation, maybe that's gonna screw you. So if we had a just issue, if you didn't have any trouble, please let secretary know, or please let parties know. Then people just gain more trust on even you were just first or second. But however, just if we wanted to maybe make it trouble, you are pretending you are highly experienced, but probably just everybody knows it. I'm just been here just over 20 years. So I know just the young junior arbitrators now how point they are struggling or how they are just suffering. So maybe share and maybe just explore just resolution for the process.
That was really great advice, Hyewon. Thank you so much. Lisa, can you be candid with us as Hyewon suggested and tell us your secret?
One secret, I would say, have fun as an arbitrator. Enjoy the privilege of sitting as an arbitrator. That's a great job to do for a living. And I guess if you love what you do, you will excel in what you do. So have fun, enjoy.
I'm going to turn to you, Kabir. Are you having fun as an arbitrator?
Having
Is that your shared tip as well?
And the only tip, just go for it. If you want to do it, ask, do it, make it happen. I'll stop here. Nike, just do it.
How much does Nike pay you to say that, Kabir? Anish, you have the last word, but you need to be super quick in exchange for that.
Absolutely. Let people know you're willing to go the extra mile. Please don't pick a Netflix television program. Don't watch, oh, I want to spend another 15 minutes of a movie. If you want to succeed, work hard towards it. Nothing's going to fall into your lap. If you have to stay awake till 4 a.m. to take on, do it. Please don't be lazy. Work hard. Okay, you will have your reward. I promise you this. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. This was a very great ending, and it doesn't only apply to Kabir, who is now at 5 a.m. in the morning, having already worked for 1 hour today. I think if I can summarize, what we learned today is, I think, really emphasizes what Hyewon said at the very beginning. Getting your first appointment may be hard, but getting your second may be even harder. There is a lot of room to screw up, a lot of room to make mistakes. And then the institution is not going to appoint you for quite a long time. So as much as it's good, as everyone has shown, to be going out there and speaking to institutions, also make sure you're ready and you do well, of course, and really work hard to make sure that if there are any difficulties, you can overcome them, and also be ready to discuss with the institution if you want to get a second opinion or just to make sure you're on the right track. With that, I hand over to Inhwa, who will really have the last word. Thank you very much.
Just a few extra seconds on my end. I would refer back to the welcoming remarks Professor Shin made, that this panel will provide a good insight in selecting the right candidate for your arbitration. Not only what they prepare to be appointed and what kind of work they go through and strategies they play out, we know also from the perspective of in-house counsel now, know what kind of arbitrator you want and what kind of dynamics that you would wish to have in your arbitration. And perhaps you can make an active interview or so to make your choice worthwhile. I think that would be my takeaway here. And on that note, without any further comment from our panelists, we will say goodbye to all. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.